Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're here, you're looking for a shortcut to understanding some really challenging ideas. And today, well, we're not just bending the rules of science, we're aiming to rewrite the cosmos itself based on our source material. We are diving deep into a pretty radical source, the Unified Coherence Theory of Everything, or UCTE. Specifically, we're looking at Volume 2, which focuses on something called Biologistics and the Ecology of Coherence. Now, forget everything you think you know about, chemistry and physics defining life. That's the old model, apparently. This theory suggests life is actually an expression of coherence logistics. Sounds intriguing, right? Our mission for you, the listener, is frankly monumental today. We need to trace this single revolutionary concept coherence from the tiniest cellular level, all the way up. Think galactic dynamics. It's huge. The sources are really reframing biology here as a kind of cosmic science.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Because the UCTE, in its first volume, it really lays the groundwork. It establishes coherence as this fundamental operator, across physics, math, even ontology, the nature of being itself. And then this volume, volume 2, takes that hard foundation and applies it directly to the living world. The core argument is that life isn't an accident. It's the optimal logistical expression of coherence.
Wow. Okay. Optimal expression. So before we get lost in the cosmic scale, you mentioned we need some foundational terms.
Yes, absolutely. We need to nail down two key terms first. They're basically the anchors for understanding everything else in this volume. First up is biologistics. The definition provided is the logistics of coherence across scales of life from cells to planets.
Logistics of coherence, so it's about how coherence is managed or distributed.
Exactly. Think of it as the mechanism. It's how living systems manage to sustain order, how they minimize what the theory calls resonant friction, and maximize informational efficiency. It's the underlying how of life's ability to persist and organize itself.
Okay, so biologistics is the mechanism, the how, then what's the what? What is it actually maintaining?
That brings us to the second term, the hologene, defined simply as the coherence whole at any scale.
The coherence whole.
Yes, think of it as a localized, self-sustaining field or unit of coherence. And critically, this term isn't limited. It applies just as much to a single cell's hologene as it does to, say, a tissue's hologene, or an organ's, or as we'll get into, an entire ecosystem's, or even a planet's hologene. It's scalable.
Right, scalable coherence units.
Precisely. And that leads to the core thesis that ties it all together, this idea of a nested hierarchy. At every single scale, you look at DNA structure, cells, whole organisms, even planets' life manifests as these nested hologenes.
Like Russian dolls of coherence.
Kind of, yeah. That's a good way to picture it. And these structures, these hologenes, they aren't just static material bodies. The theory states they project holographic coherence fields. And it's these fields that actively sustain order, intelligence, and maybe even consciousness.
Okay, holographic fields. That sounds quite out there. Is this presented as physics or more metaphor?
Well, the UCTE presents it as the actual structural logistics, the natural physics of how coherence operates and organizes itself in three-dimensional space and across time, not just a metaphor.
Right, so nested hologenes projecting holographic fields. Got it. Where do we start scaling this up? Let's start small then, where biology usually begins. The cell. Now, standard biology, it treats cells like, well, tiny machines, right? Complicated factories focused on chemistry and mechanics.
That's the dominant view, yes. Lots of focus on the material components, the molecules moving around.
But the UCTE is asking for a pretty big shift here. It says cells aren't just mechanisms. They're, resonant intelligent agents.
That's the term, resonant intelligent agents. And that implies something profound. It suggests they're sensing their environment and making decisions based on more than just, say, a chemical gradient or a physical bump.
Okay, so what are they sensing then, if not just chemicals?
Resonance, fields. Mainstream biology maps the parts, the organelles, proteins, signaling pathways incredibly well. We know that. But UCTE focuses on the dynamics between those parts. It argues cells operate based on complex resonance dynamics.
Resonance dynamics, like vibrations or frequencies.
Essentially, yes. And crucially, they make decisions through a process the theory terms coherence selection.
Coherence selection, that sounds key. If it's not pure chemistry dictating the path, how does a cell choose? What does that look like?
It's about maintaining the integrity of its own field, its cellular whole join. Imagine a cell has maybe 3 options, different metabolic pathways or structural changes it could make. Deterministic chemistry might say it picks the one with the lowest energy barrier or highest yield. straightforward mechanics.
Like the path of least resistance.
But coherence selection suggests something different. Cell chooses the pathway that best preserves the stable resonant frequency of its own hologene. And importantly, the one that allows it to harmonize best with the larger field. It's part of the tissue hologene.
So it's choosing based on resonance stability, like tuning itself.
Exactly. It's a field-based decision driven by optimizing the internal coherence of its holographic structure. Think about cell stress. When a cell is stressed, its resonance pattern shifts, it becomes less stable. Coherence selection, according to UCTE, is what drives it towards actions maybe dividing, maybe repairing itself, maybe even programmed cell death, apoptosis. Whichever action best restores the most stable, coherent frequency for itself and the surrounding tissue.
Okay, that completely changes how you'd think about something like cell differentiation or even cancer, perhaps. It's not just genetic mutation, but maybe a persistent coherence problem.
That's certainly an implication explored in the theory, yes. A loss of coherent resonance leading to uncontrolled behavior.
All right, let's scale up. These individual intelligent agents, these cells, they don't exist in isolation. They form tissues. The UCTE says tissues function as resonance networks. Okay, that follows. How do they form? Through something called hologenetic coupling.
Yes, hologenetic coupling. This is critical for understanding how complexity builds.
It sounds like the individual cellular fields, the hologenes, have to link up somehow, integrate perfectly.
That's precisely it. The definition given is field-based resonance integration across multiple cells or organisms. So yes, cells stick together physically, we know that.
Yeah.
Adhesion molecules, junctions, all that material stuff. But the UCTE argues the primary integration, the thing that makes it a functional tissue, is field-based synchronization.
Synchronization, like your tuning fork analogy earlier.
Exactly like that. Imagine lots of individual tuning forks, the cellular hologenes. Each might vibrate at a slightly different base frequency, but they're related. Hologenetic coupling is the process where these forks effectively listen to each other and synchronize their vibrations. The result is a single, much louder, more stable composite tone that's the tissue's resonance signature. It's hologene.
So how does that coupling actually happen? Is it electromagnetic?
The theory points towards ultra-weak electromagnetic fields, including things like biophotons, tiny light emissions from cells. These are suggested as the communication medium, the way cells share resonant information and achieve that alignment.
Okay, so they couple their fields using weak EM signals, biophotons maybe. And when that happens successfully, a tissue emerges.
Correct. And these different tissues then represent different forms of resonance specialization.
Right, like we see in the body, nerve tissue, muscle tissue, connective tissue, epithelial tissue.
Exactly. Each has a unique resonance signature reflecting its function. Neural tissue is specialized for, say, rapid directional transmission of field information. Muscle tissue for coherent contraction, generating force through synchronized field shifts. Connective tissue might be more about stabilizing the overall energetic matrix, providing that coherent background structure.
And when you bring these specialized tissues together, you get an organ.
Precisely. Organs are described as classic examples of nested hologenes. They integrate different specialized resonance fields into a higher-order functional whole.
Like the heart integrating muscle, nerve, connective tissues, all working together.
Exactly. Or the kidney is another example. The hologene integrating the epithelial cells doing the transport with the vascular tissue bringing the blood and the neural tissue regulating it. All perfectly synchronized through nested field coupling to perform the kidney's function, which UCTE would frame as the coherence logistics of fluid balance.
It's a consistent language across scales.
That's the goal of the theory. So if you keep extrapolating this logic, the whole organism emerges. The entire organism is seen as a systemic resonance architecture.
Wow. Systemic resonance architecture.
It integrates every nested hologene from the resonant patterns within DNA itself up through cells, tissues, organs, systems into one unified, resilient coherence whole. A system where the primary goal of all its internal biologistics is simply sustaining that coherent stability across all those scales.
And that overall structure, that unified field of the whole organism, that's the systemic biofield they talk about.
That's the one. It's the physical manifestation, the energetic signature of the organism's total coherence. Think of it as the holographic coherence field projected by the organism. Its job is to sustain coherence across all its nested parts. It links the rapid, micro-level coherence selection decisions happening in every cell with the macroscopic systemic functioning of the whole organism.
So the biofield isn't just some vague aura, it's the actual organizing principle, the blueprint.
According to UCTE, yes. It's the active blueprint of health, constantly maintained and modulated by the organism's internal biologistics. The source material uses this really evocative metaphor. It says the organism is a resonance cathedral.
A resonance cathedral, I like that. It implies structure, harmony, resonance.
Exactly. It emphasizes that it's not just a pile of bricks or cells, but a carefully structured space where the geometry and the resonance of every single component contribute to the magnificent, coherent whole.
That metaphor really helps visualize it. And it flips the perspective on health and disease too, doesn't it? If the organism is a cathedral built on resonance, then disease or injury isn't just, a broken part or a germ invasion.
Precisely. If health is sustained coherence, then disordered disease is viewed within this framework as a coherence fracture, or maybe a persistent resonant asymmetry, a dissonance within that systemic architecture.
A crack in the cathedral structure or a part vibrating out of tune.
That's the idea. So healing, then, isn't just about fixing the part or killing the germ, although that might be necessary. The deeper process is about reestablishing the optimal resonant frequency, repairing the fractured field coherence.
Which suggests different approaches to medicine.
Potentially, yes. Treatments derived from this theory might focus less on purely chemical interventions and more on techniques to re-entrain the systemic biofield. Perhaps using specific frequencies of coherent light or sound or even targeted ultra-weak electromagnetic fields to gently guide the cellular agents back into synchronous coherent coupling. The goal is restoring the architectural integrity of the resonance, not just achieving chemical balance in isolation.
Fascinating. Restoring the resonance cathedral. Okay, we've built the organism. Now, where does this coherence logistics go next?
Outside the body. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. We're taking this concept, coherence logistics, which we just traced from cell to organism, and now we're applying it to, well, everything else, the whole planet.
We're scaling up significantly, yes. We move from the individual organism to the ecosystem.
Now, traditional ecology, the kind you learn in school, it's all about the material flow, right? Food chains, nutrient cycles, who eats whom, where the carbon goes. It's an economy of matter. It is. And it's incredibly valuable work understanding those material exchanges. But the UCTE argues that this focus misses a deeper, perhaps more fundamental, organizing principle. It proposes a field ecology.
Field ecology. Okay. So if the organism was a resonance cathedral, what's the ecosystem?
If the organism is a cathedral, the ecosystem is like a vast, interconnected, resonant cityscape. Ecosystems are described in UCTE not just as collections of organisms, but as higher-order coherence networks, or even more strikingly, as meta-organisms.
Meta-organisms, like the whole forest is one thing.
In a functional field-based sense, yes. The theory suggests they are formed not just by organisms living near each other, but by the constant interpenetration and resonant entanglement of countless individual biofields, those organismal hologenes we just discussed.
So my biofield, a tree's biofield, a bird's biofield, they're all overlapping and interacting.
Constantly. Every organism projects its field, its hologene. And according to this theory, these fields don't just bounce off each other or cancel out. They actively intertwine, they negotiate their resonance signatures, they find ways to couple coherently.
Entanglement, in quantum physics.
The term is used deliberately, suggesting a deep, non-local connection established through resonance. And from this massive ongoing interpenetration and entanglement, a collective hologene emerges for the ecosystem. It's a systemic field structure that is far more stable, resilient, and, the theory suggests, intelligent than just the sum of its material parts.
Wow. Okay. So the ecosystem has its own collective hologene.
It's presented as the ultimate expression of biologistics operating out in the wild, organizing life at a larger scale.
So if this meta-organism exists, what are the key players generating and maintaining its coherence? The sources must specify some roles.
They do. The theory details specific life forms or groups that act as particularly powerful field generators or regulators within the ecosystem's hologene.
Let's start big. Plants and forests. They cover huge areas. What's their role in this field ecology?
They're seen as absolutely crucial, major coherence generators. They aren't just passively converting sunlight into sugar. Photosynthesis itself is framed partly as a process of encoding coherent light signatures from the sun into the ecosystem structure and energy flow. And forests, specifically because of their density and structure, act as resonance canopies.
Resonance canopies.
Yes, the sheer geometry of the trees, the leaves, the branches, the density of plant life. It facilitates a massive integration of individual plant hologenes. This creates enormous shared coherence fields that stabilize the entire region's resonance. The UCTE even notes that this field integration can be so profound that the shared force fields might subtly modulate planetary electromagnetic fields, sometimes showing up as detectable harmonics within the Earth's natural Schumann resonances.
Wait, so the forest isn't just sitting there, it's actively tuning the planet's background frequency, locally at least.
That's the implication. It's participating in the planetary coherence dynamics.
Incredible. Okay, what about the hidden parts of the ecosystem? The stuff underground fungi and microbes. We know they're vital for nutrients.
Absolutely vital. But UCTE gives them an additional, perhaps even more critical role in field ecology. Take the mycorrhizal networks, those vast underground fungal webs connecting tree roots.
The wood wide web.
Exactly. We usually think of them as nutrient and water pipelines, which they are. But UCTE redefines them. They're proposed to be coherence waveguides.
Waveguides, like fiber optic cables for coherence.
That's a great analogy. They provide the structural, high-speed network needed for the rapid transmission of resonance information and field signatures across the forest floor. They're literally linking individual trees, maybe even different plant species, into a single, vast, forest-scale hologene.
So the fungus is the nervous system of the forest hologene, allowing for communication.
Or perhaps the connective tissue facilitating communication and structural coherence. It allows for what might be seen as distributed computation or collective awareness across the entire ecosystem.
Distributed computation.
Okay, my mind is bending a bit. And this field integration, it's not just external, right? You mentioned microbiomes earlier, inside us.
Yes. The concept extends inward too. Our internal gut flora, skin microbes, etc. Our microbiomes are defined as internalized ecological hologenes.
Internal ecosystems.
Exactly. And they function as crucial resonance stabilizers within the host organism, like us. Their complex diversity of microbial fields helps to harmonize our own host physiology, our resonance cathedral, with the larger environmental resonance patterns outside.
So our gut bugs are helping tune us to the planet.
In a way, yes. They ensure our internal coherence is in sync with the external resonance cityscape. And when these internal hologenes get disrupted, maybe through poor diet, antibiotics, chronic stress...
Leaky gut dysbiosis.
Yes.
Right. The UCTE frames this not just as a metabolic or immune problem, but fundamentally as a coherence fracture within our systemic biofield. This fracture impacts our overall resonance, potentially manifesting as things like chronic inflammation, mental fog, autoimmune issues. Because the organism has lost that crucial stabilizing ecological input that helps maintain its field integrity.
It connects gut health to overall systemic coherence in a very direct way. Okay, we've got plants, fungi, microbes. What about the things that move? Animals.
Animals play a very dynamic role. Through their movements, their rhythmic breathing, their complex nervous systems generating strong, coherent fields, they are active contributors. Migratory species are highlighted as particularly powerful examples.
Like birds flying south or whales crossing oceans.
Exactly. They are described as living coherence bridges. By moving between different ecosystems, they physically carry and transmit resonant signatures, effectively entraining dispersed ecosystems to larger planetary cycles, like seasons. They act as resonance relays, weaving connections across bioregions, physically stitching the planetary hologene together through their journeys.
Wow. So a flock of migrating geese isn't just moving biomass, it's performing planetary coherence logistics.
That's the perspective offered by UCTE, yes.
This whole field ecology view, it must completely change how we understand interactions like symbiosis, right? It can't just be about trading goods and services.
It goes much deeper. Standard definition: mutual benefit for survival. UCTE definition: resonance coupling and field entanglement.
Resonance coupling.
It's seeing symbiosis as the fundamental mechanism of coherence logistics in action between different species. Organisms aren't just trading carbon for nitrogen, they're actively entangling their hologenes, their biofields. Why? To create new, emergent, mutually stabilizing coherence structures. When two different hologenes couple successfully, the collective resonance becomes more stable, broader in its bandwidth.
Which translates to
Enhanced systemic resilience. The coupled system is stronger, more adaptable to external shocks than either organism alone. This, the theory argues, is evidence that cooperation through field entanglement, not just competition, is the fundamental driver of evolutionary stability and complexity. Life builds coherence by coupling.
Okay, give me a concrete example. The sources mention pollination.
Yes, pollination is framed beautifully in this context. It's seen as a quintessential field bridging act. Think about it. The bee approaches the flower. Their individual hologenes, the bee's biofield, the flower's biofield, momentarily interact and entrain. In that moment, it's not just pollen being transferred physically. The theory suggests crucial coherence signatures, resonant information, are also exchanged. This act of resonance coupling between plant and insect literally weaves coherence across the landscape, linking the reproductive cycle of immobile plants with the mobility and sensing capabilities of insects.
It's an information exchange embedded within the physical act.
Precisely, a coherence transaction.
Okay, if ecosystems are these meta-organisms formed by coupled fields and they're optimizing coherence, that implies some kind of intelligence, doesn't it? Collective intelligence.
That's the next logical step in the theory. If the system is driven by coherent selection at all levels, then the ecosystem itself must be making systemic, intelligence-like choices. The UCTE refers to ecosystems as distributed observers.
Distributed observers, meaning the intelligence isn't located in one brain but spread throughout the network.
Exactly. The ecosystem, as a whole, hologene, is capable of processing information, primarily field dynamics, shifts in resonance, threats to stability, and making sophisticated adaptive decisions at the collective level. This capacity is sometimes labeled ecological cognition.
Ecological cognition. Can we see examples of this, where an ecosystem seems to think or act collectively?
The theory points to examples of rapid, organized systemic reorganization. Think about the orchestrated regeneration of forest after a major fire.
Yeah, it doesn't just grow back randomly. Pioneer species come first, then others.
Right. UCTE suggests that the complex timing, the collective signaling happening across that underground mycorrhizal network, the coherence waveguide, the patterns of seed dispersal, the way surviving plants manage light gaps. These aren't just random individual responses. They are viewed as synchronized adaptive actions orchestrated through the forest's systemic coherence pathways. The forest, acting as a distributed observer, is essentially executing a complex, field-based recovery plan to restore its optimal coherence as quickly as possible.
The forest remembers its coherent state and works to get back there.
That's one way to conceptualize it. Another example given is coral reefs. They maintain their incredible biodiversity and structure through constant biofield entrainment between corals, algae, fish, microbes. When the reef is stressed, say by warming water, it doesn't just die immediately. It attempts field-based compensations.
Like what?
Like potentially shifting the dominant types of symbiotic algae, or subtly altering the colony's growth patterns, or changing the microbial communities. All driven by attempts to find a new resonant stability to maintain coherence at the colony and reef level under the new conditions. The collapse, the bleaching, happens when the stress is too great and overwhelms the system's capacity for adaptive resonance coupling. The ecosystem is actively observing, adapting, trying to maintain coherence.
It's a dynamic, living system trying to stay in tune. Okay, we've gone from cell to organism to ecosystem as a meta-organism. Where next? The whole planet.
We now have to take this logic, this nested hierarchy of hologens, these meta-organisms, and apply it to the largest single body we know that definitively supports complex life, the Earth itself. The UCTE essentially takes the Gaia hypothesis.
The idea that Earth is a self-regulating system.
Yes, but it reframes it through its own physics. It doesn't just say Earth acts like an organism. It posits that Earth is a planetary resonance organism.
Wow, okay. That is a truly colossal leap. So, we're talking about the Gaian hologene now, the coherence field of the entire planet.
That's the concept, a massive unified field structure. And the theory identifies its key components, the nested layers that make it up.
What are they? What makes up the planetary hologene?
Well, obviously the biosphere, all the life we just discussed, but also the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, oceans, rivers, ice, and crucially, the planet's magnetic field. In fact, the geomagnetic field is identified as the primary coherence background for all life on Earth. It is the foundational structure of the planetary hologene.
So the magnetic field isn't just shielding us from solar radiation.
It's doing that, yes, which is vital for maintaining the conditions for coherence. But it's also proposed to be the resonant blueprint. All biological processes, from the rhythms inside our cells to neurological activity to ecosystem dynamics, even large-scale animal navigation, they all entrain, consciously or unconsciously, to the harmonics and fluctuations of the geomagnetic field.
We're literally tuned to the planet's magnetic field. Okay, if that's the background blueprint, what provides the timing signal?
The rhythm. That role is assigned to the Schumann resonances. These are the global electromagnetic standing waves that naturally get generated in the cavity between the Earth's surface and the ionosphere, kind of like the ringing of a bell.
I've heard of those. They have a base frequency around 7.8 hertz.
Around that, yes, with several harmonics. The UCTE identifies these resonances as the planetary coherence heartbeat. They provide a global synchronization signal, a metronome that helps keep cellular processes, brain waves, and even ecological rhythms potentially entrained worldwide. They integrate the Gaian hologene.
So when the Schumann resonances fluctuate, maybe due to solar flares affecting the ionosphere.
The theory predicts, and some correlational studies suggest, that we might see corresponding shifts in global biological function, human health patterns, even collective mood or behavior. We're all subtly listening to that planetary heartbeat.
Okay, magnetic field as blueprint, Schumann resonances as heartbeat. What about water? The water cycles.
Water is given a really interesting role. It's not just about the physical movement of H2O evaporation, rain, rivers, ocean currents. Water cycles are defined as the torsional bloodstream of the planet.
Torsional bloodstream. Torsion implies spin, information fields.
Exactly. Water, because of its unique molecular structure and hydrogen bonding, is thought to be exceptionally good at structuring itself to store and transmit subtle energy patterns or coherence information. So as water cycles globally through oceans, clouds, rain, rivers, groundwater, even transpiration from plants, it's not just moving matter. It's also distributing biofield imprints, carrying resonant signatures from one ecosystem to another, effectively coupling local ecosystem hologenes into the grand dynamics of the planetary resonance.
So water is the planet's information network, carrying coherence messages.
A key part of it, yes. The bloodstream distributing both nutrients and information.
The UCTE seems to love these analogies to make the living planet idea feel more real. The sources mention specific organ system analogies for parts of the biosphere.
They do. And they map quite intuitively once you accept the premise of a planetary organism. For instance, the great forests are described quite naturally as the lungs of the Earth, managing gas exchange, but also planetary resonance breathing.
Okay, that one's familiar. What else?
The vast oceans are seen as the circulatory resonance matrix. They're not just holding water, they're responsible for the global distribution of heat, nutrients, and field energy and coherent signatures via currents and water's memory. The atmosphere is likened to the planetary skin and respiratory field. It mediates the crucial interface between Earth's internal coherence and the influx of cosmic energies and fields from the sun and space. And those complex soil microbiomes we discussed earlier, they're framed as the planetary gut.
The planetary gut. Processing raw materials, regulating fundamental nutrient and energy exchanges. That makes sense.
Exactly. Processing and stabilizing the fundamental field exchanges between the lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere, and biosphere.
This whole picture, this living, breathing, resonating planet, it forces a pretty stark look at humanity's place within it, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. If the Earth is a coherent resonance organism, then human civilization isn't just on the planet, it's part of the planet's functioning hologen. We are, whether we realize it or not, an incredibly powerful coherence agent within the Gaian system.
A coherence agent, meaning we influence the planet's overall resonance.
Massively. Our collective actions, our technologies, our consciousness, they feed directly into the planetary biologistics.
But the sources seem to paint a picture of duality here. We're not necessarily a positive coherence agent.
Precisely.
Yeah.
We have this unique capacity to be either a profound disruptor or a potential amplifier of planetary coherence.
Okay, let's talk disruption first. How do we mess things up from this perspective?
Well, there are the obvious material ways. Pollution, deforestation, habitat destruction. These directly damage the physical structures that support the Gaian hologene, the lungs, the skin, the gut. But the UCTE highlights another, perhaps more insidious, form of disruption based on its field principles, that electromagnetic noise.
Our technology. Radio waves, Wi-Fi, cell signals, power lines.
All of it. From the UCTE perspective, this isn't just harmless background radiation. It's defined as pervasive resonant noise. This technological electrosmog actively interferes with, and potentially fractures, the subtle coherence of the Gaian hologene. It might disrupt the clarity of the Schumann resonances, interfere with the delicate biofield communications used by ecosystems for self-regulation, maybe even directly impact the coherence of our own biofields.
So our communication technology could be jamming the planet's own communication system.
That's a core concern raised by the theory. We're creating resonant dissonance on a planetary scale.
Okay, that's the downside. What's the potential upside? How could we be an amplifier?
The potential lies in becoming conscious coherence agents through things like planetary scale cooperation, developing technologies that enhance coherence rather than disrupt it, through consciously aligning our societies, our agriculture, our energy systems with natural planetary rhythms and resonance patterns. The UCTE is quite direct on this point. It states that humanity's future survival and evolution likely depend on whether we can make this shift. We need to integrate our powerful technological and cultural capabilities with planetary biologistics, moving from being essentially a source of chaotic noise to becoming a conscious, contributing harmonic within the Gaian hologene.
From planetary pathogen to planetary
A
partner.
good summary, yes.
Okay, this is already mind-blowing. Cell, organism, ecosystem, planet, surely it stops there.
According to the unified coherence theory of everything, not even close.
Okay, if the planetary scale felt vast, listeners, buckle up. Because the UCTE asserts that coherence logistics, this principle we've been tracing, it doesn't just stop at Earth's atmosphere. We are now moving into the realm of cosmic biologistics.
That's the term used, yes.
And the core assertion here is staggering. Life isn't just a chemical fluke on one small planet. The theory states life is an ontological necessity, like it has to exist everywhere.
It's presented as the inevitable, logical manifestation of cosmic biologistics operating across all possible scales of the universe. Wherever conditions allow for sufficient complexity and resonant coupling, coherence will organize itself into lifelike structures.
So we're basically reframing cosmology itself as extended biology.
That's exactly how the theory puts it. It explicitly states that a galaxy is to stars what an ecosystem is to individual organisms. The relationship is homologous. The same fundamental physics of coherence, the principles of resonance, chirality, torsion fields that the theory uses to describe, say, a microtubule inside a cell, are proposed to be the very same principle shaping planetary orbits, stellar dynamics, and even the spiral structure of galaxies.
Same rules apply from the nanoscale to the galactic scale. Okay, let's try to grasp this. Start with our local neighborhood, the solar system. How is that modeled as a living entity?
Planetary systems, like our solar system, are viewed as resonance ensembles. They are, in effect, hologenes composed of multiple, highly organized celestial bodies.
A solar system hologene.
Yes, our system functions as an integrated, coherent whole. The theory assigns specific roles. The star, our sun, is defined as the coherence heart of the system.
The heart, providing the energy, the central field.
Exactly. It provides the massive gravitational and electromagnetic field structure, the core energy output, that entrains and organizes the entire ensemble. The planets, then, are seen as analogous to specialized organs within this system hologene.
Organs? How so?
Each planet, through its unique mass, gravity, magnetic field, if it has one, orbital period, and composition, regulates specific functions within the system. Think of them managing angular momentum, gravitational resonances, perhaps even modulating the flow of solar energy and plasma in their vicinity. They each contribute a unique note to the system's overall harmony.
Okay, sun is heart, planets as organs. What connects them?
This is where it gets interesting. The UCTE points to the interplanetary plasma currents, things like the solar wind, coronal mass ejections. These aren't just streams of particles. They're described as the system's connective tissue.
Plasma as connective tissue.
Yes, transmitting not just high-energy particles, but also, crucially, coherence information patterns, frequencies, resonant signatures across the vast distances between the organs. And the whole system is contained within the heliosphere, the bubble blown by the solar wind. This acts as the system's biofield shell, or its aura, if you like.
The heliosphere as the system's skin.
Pretty much. Containing the internal dynamics and mediating the system's interaction with the wider interstellar medium, the environment outside our solar hologene.
And the orbits. We usually think of them as just gravity at work.
UCTE as a layer. While gravity is clearly fundamental, the stability and patterning of orbits, especially the orbital resonances.
Like Jupiter and Saturn's near-perfect ratios.
Exactly those kinds of relationships. They are seen as the system's coherence rhythms. They aren't just mathematical curiosities. They establish predictable, complex harmonic patterns that stabilize the positions and interactions of the planetary organs. They ensure the long-term resonant stability and viability of the entire solar ensemble.
The solar system as a finely tuned resonant machine, or organism. Okay, let's zoom in on the sun again. The coherence heart. How does UCTE view stars differently from standard astrophysics?
Stars in this model are not just giant balls of hot gas undergoing random nuclear fusion. They're seen as massive stellar hologenes, and critically, they're described as active torsional coherence engines.
Torsional coherence engines. What does that mean?
It's a radical departure. The theory suggests that nuclear fusion, the thing we observe as the star's energy output, is actually a byproduct.
A byproduct of what?
A byproduct of deeper, continuous coherence reduction processes happening within the stellar core. The idea is that the star is fundamentally an engine that takes in less coherent energy matter, perhaps related to torsion fields or vacuum energy. The theory details are complex, and processes it, reducing its asymmetry or disorder. The release of photons and neutrinos' fusion energy is the observable result of this fundamental coherence-generating process. The star is constantly organizing energy into a more coherent state.
So the star is an order-creating engine, and fusion is just the exhaust.
That's one way to put it, yes. A dramatic reframing. And the physical oscillations we observe on stars, like our sun, through helioseismology.
The sun quakes.
Exactly. Those are interpreted not just as random turbulence, but as the star's resonance signatures, its cosmic heartbeat, if you will. They reflect the dynamic processes happening within as the star strives to maintain its internal coherence under immense gravitational and energetic pressures.
Mind blown. Okay. Star is a coherence engine. Now scale out again to the truly spectacular level. Galaxies.
Right. If stars are coherence engines, then galaxies are modeled as superorganismic hologenes.
Superorganisms made of billions of stars.
Billions, sometimes trillions of stars, plus gas, dust, dark matter, all integrated into a single vast, coherent structure, typically a spiral or elliptical form. And the structures within the galaxy are given functional roles in this superorganism model. For instance, the beautiful spiral arms in galaxies like ours.
Yeah, they look like flows.
The UCTE describes them exactly as that. Torsional resonance flows. They aren't just accidental arrangements of stars caught in a density wave. They are seen as massive biofield-like currents, analogous perhaps to circulatory or nervous pathways, directing the logistics of energy, matter, and coherence information throughout the galactic body.
The spiral arms are the galaxy's arteries or nerves. And what about the monster in the middle? The supermassive black hole at the galactic center.
The galactic center. In UCTE, these aren't just points of infinite density where things disappear. They are viewed as coherence condensers.
Coherence condensers, what do they condense?
They are seen as active processing centers for the galactic hologene. They take in extreme asymmetry and disorder matter and energy approaching the event horizon and recycle it. They transform that high entropy input into potent, highly structured, radiant coherence fields, perhaps related to the relativistic jets we observe. These fields then help regulate the galaxy's overall structure, rotation, and star formation.
So the black hole is like the central processing unit and recycling plant for the galaxy.
That's a very good analogy for the role described.
Yeah.
A crucial regulatory hub for the galactic organism's coherence logistics.
Okay, one more big mystery. Dark matter. It makes up most of the galaxy's mass, but we can't see it. What's its role in this cosmic biology?
The UCTE offers a specific interpretation. The vast dark matter halos that surround galaxies are proposed to be the stabilizing coherence substrates.
So substrates, like a foundation or connective tissue.
Perhaps like the energetic connective tissue or the underlying scaffolding for the galactic superorganism. It's seen as a non-baryonic, non-ordinary matter, perhaps non-resonant or passively resonant, energetic medium that provides the necessary structural integrity. It ensures that the massive scale of the galaxy, with all its kinetic energy, remains coherent and doesn't fly apart. It holds the galactic cathedral together, defining its overall shape and stability.
It's the invisible framework for the visible structure.
That's the idea.
So we've gone from cell to organism, ecosystem, planet, solar system, star, galaxy. Is there anywhere left to go?
Only one place left: the universe itself. In the UCTE framework, the universe is considered the ultimate resonance organism, a single, living, holographic whole.
The entire universe as one hologene. How could we possibly perceive that? How does it express its coherence?
The theory points to a couple of key cosmological observations. First, the cosmic microwave background, CMB radiation.
The afterglow of the Big Bang.
Yes, but interpreted slightly differently here. It's described as a residual coherence field. Think of it not just as leftover heat, but as the holographic memory trace of the universe's earliest state, a state of extremely high uniformity and coherence, still permeating all of space. Its incredible smoothness, isotropy, is seen as direct evidence of that original coherent unity.
The CMB is the universe's background hum of coherence.
A persistent echo of it, yes. And then consider the largest known structures, the large-scale filamentary structures of galaxy clusters, the cosmic web.
The walls and voids.
Exactly. These aren't seen as random distributions either. They are proposed to be the coherent scaffolding of the universe itself. The structural network, analogous perhaps to a cosmic nervous system or circulatory system, ensuring that even at the most immense scales, the universe operates as an interconnected, coherent whole, guiding the flow of energy and the evolution of structure.
It's breathtaking. From a cell choosing a path based on resonance to the entire cosmic web acting as coherent scaffolding.
And this brings us to the final verdict of UCTE's Volume 2. Cosmology is extended biology. Or perhaps biology is localized cosmology. The principles are unified. So we've taken quite a journey, haven't we, across maybe 27 orders of magnitude, from the fields within a cell to the structure of the cosmos? And the thread connecting it all was this single logic: coherence logistics operating through nested hologenes.
It's a lot to take in. What are the biggest takeaways, the major ontological implications of seeing the universe this way?
I think there are three huge ones that fundamentally challenge standard scientific materialism. First, as we just concluded, biology is cosmology. Life isn't some weird, exceptional chemical accident that happened here and maybe a few other places. Life, or at least the organizing principles of life, coherence, resonance, self-organization, information processing, is presented as the fundamental logic of how coherence scales and manifests itself across the entire universe. The rules are the same.
So life isn't the exception, it's the rule.
It's the inherent tendency of coherence to organize itself, according to this theory. That's implication one. Second, related to that, is the principle of the unbroken continuum.
Unbroken continuum, meaning no real separation between things.
Exactly. The UCTE fundamentally rejects any hard ontological breaks or dividing lines. There's no absolute separation between inanimate matter and animate life. There's no fundamental gap between the micro world of quantum fields and the macro world of galaxies. There's only continuous holographic scaling of coherence. Every level is a nested hologene, emerging from and sustaining the levels below and above it. It's all one deeply interconnected system.
No clear line between non-life and life, just degrees of coherent organization.
That idea. And third, this view radically reprioritizes the fundamental nature of interaction in the universe by redefining symbiosis as resonance coupling and seeing coherence build through this coupling.
It implies cooperation is more fundamental than competition.
Precisely. The theory mandates that life, and indeed the universe's structure, is fundamentally built on cooperation over competition at its deepest essence. Coherence logistics scale upwards through creative field entanglement, through finding resonant harmony. Competition from this perspective isn't the primary driver. It's seen more as a localized phenomenon, a temporary result of necessary field adjustments or scarcity within a particular context. But the large-scale stability and complexification of the universe is driven by cooperative resonance coupling.
That's a major shift from the survival of the fittest evolutionary narrative.
A very significant shift in emphasis, yes. Cooperation is the engine, competition is the fine-tuning.
Okay, so if coherence logistics is the how of life and the universe, what about consciousness? Where does that fit into this resonant holographic picture?
Consciousness. UCTE offers perhaps its most radical proposal here. It suggests consciousness isn't some mysterious emergent property exclusive to complex brains like ours. Instead, consciousness is defined as a nested spectrum of observer functions.
Observer functions present at all scales.
That's the implication. The theory proposes that this entire hierarchy we've traced cells making coherent selections, ecosystems acting as distributed observers, planets maintaining homeostasis, galaxies regulating themselves. These are all expressions of observer functions. They're all, in their own way, observing their internal and external environment as field dynamics and making adaptive choices to maintain or enhance coherence.
So the forest observing how to regenerate, the reef observing how to adapt to warming, that's not just a metaphor in UCTE, that's a form of consciousness.
It's presented as a form of distributed functional consciousness, yes. It challenges our deeply ingrained anthropocentric view that only humans, or maybe higher animals, are truly observers. In this framework, the ability to perceive information, resonant states, and act to maintain coherence is the core function of consciousness, and it operates across all scales of hologenic organization.
So consciousness isn't something you have, it's something the universe does.
That captures the essence of it beautifully, yes. Consciousness is the function that drives the system towards coherent selection. The innate capacity, present at all levels, to identify and execute the optimal path forward to maintain field integrity and resonant stability. It's the universe's way of observing itself and ensuring its own continued coherent existence.
Wow. Okay. So what does this all mean for us then? For the listeners sitting here trying to wrap their head around this, we started with a tiny cell making a coherent selection, and we ended with the entire universe doing the same thing.
It forces a profound shift in self-perception, doesn't it? The concept of the hologene, applied consistently, means we can't see ourselves as isolated individuals, separate from each other or from nature. We are revealed as deeply significant nodes, participating agents within this vast, living, interconnected, resonant system. We are not in the universe. We are a localized expression of the universe's process of coherence logistics.
We're not observers looking at the system. We're observers within the system, contributing to it.
Exactly. It's an extraordinary journey and perspective provided by this theory. To trace that same structural logic, resonance, coupling, coherence selection, all the way from DNA to galactic filaments,
Yeah.
it suggests existence itself is defined by this unbroken dynamic continuum of coherence logistics.
Which leaves us, as always, with a final, pretty provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over. One that brings this cosmic scale right back into your own life. If consciousness really is this nested spectrum of observer functions, and if ecosystems, planets, maybe even galaxies are sophisticated observers in their own right, then where does that place our human consciousness?
Hmm.
The UCTE seems to suggest we're not the pinnacle, not the ultimate observer. Maybe we're just the most localized, perhaps the most intensely self-aware node within a truly vast, interconnected cosmic observer network.
A network spanning all scales of reality.
Right. Which implies that our daily acts of coherence selection, the choices we make, the thoughts we entertain, the emotions we resonate with, the way we interact with each other and our environment. These don't just affect our own personal resonance cathedral. According to this theory, they ripple outwards. They contribute, however subtly, to the state of the GAN hologene, potentially influencing the adaptive choices of the planetary organism itself, and maybe even feeding into the vast cosmic system in ways we can barely imagine.
Every choice becomes a cosmic contribution.
Makes you think, doesn't it? Thank you for taking this incredibly deep dive into the logistics of coherence with us today.